The dim lights of the alien refugee camp flickered under the weight of the storm overhead. Thunder growled across the ashen sky, and acid rain hissed as it touched the worn tarps draped over the makeshift shelters. The camp was a grim testament to the collapse of countless civilizations across the galaxy, each victimized by the Ravagers, a species of relentless conquerors who left nothing but ruins in their wake. Among the camp's inhabitants was a young alien girl, frail and trembling. Her skin was a shimmering lavender, glowing faintly in the dark like an ember struggling to stay alive. Her name was Sari, and she belonged to the Scifi race, once renowned for their advanced healing arts. Now, her kind was scattered and broken, their worlds nothing more than cinders. Sari clutched her injured arm, the wound festering and spreading dark veins across her delicate skin. She'd had spent days moving from tent to tent, seeking aid from the various species that called the camp home. But each time she was met with cold indifference or outright hostility. The Scifi, once envied for their abilities, were now scorned, seen as weak remnants of a failed race. By the time she stumbled into the human medic's tent, Sari had given up hope. Dr. Elias Carter was tired. His back ached from endless hours of treating injuries and ailments, and his mind swirled with the chaos of the camp. Humanity's medical expertise had become a rare commodity in the galaxy, and Elias found himself working beyond his limits every single day, yet he persisted. The thought of leaving anyone to suffer, no matter their species, was unthinkable to him. When Sari appeared at the entrance of his tent, drenched and shivering, Elias didn't hesitate. "Come in," he said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. Sari hesitated. I don't have anything to offer," she murmured, her eyes downcast. "I don't care about payment," Elias replied, gesturing to a cot. "Sit down, let me take a look." As Sari settled onto the cot, Elias's practiced hands moved swiftly, examining her wound. The infection had spread dangerously close to her vital pathways, a unique feature of Scifi biology that made even minor injuries potentially fatal. "How long have you had this?" he asked, his brow furrowing. 4 days, she whispered. "No one would help me." Elias's jaw tightened. "Well, that ends now. Hold still. This is going to sting." He reached for his medical kit, retrieving a vial of antiseptic and a portable dermal regenerator. As he worked, Sari watched him with wide eyes. There was no hesitation in his movements, no disgust in his expression. For the first time in days, she felt something akin to hope. Hours passed as Elias tended to her. He cleaned the wound, neutralized the infection, and administered a serum to boost her weakened immune system. Throughout the process, he asked gentle questions about her condition and her past, never prying but showing genuine interest. Sari found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected. She told him about her homeworld, Cerathis, a planet of crystalline forests and radiant skies. She spoke of her family, of the laughter that once filled their lives before the Ravagers came. Her voice cracked as she recounted the destruction, the burning of her people, the screams of those who couldn't escape. Elias listened silently, his hands never faltering in their work. When he finally finished, he looked at her and smiled. "You're going to be okay now. Just take it easy for a while and come back if anything feels wrong." Sari's eyes filled with tears. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "No one else would." Elias leaned back in his chair, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Because it's the right thing to do. You're not just some number in a camp, Sari. You're a person, and people deserve care." Word of Elias's act spread quickly through the camp. Some praised him for his compassion. Others scoffed at his decision to waste resources on a Scifi. Sari, however, was determined to repay his kindness. She began assisting him in the clinic, using what little knowledge of healing she still remembered from her people. At first, Elias was hesitant to let her help, but as days turned into weeks, he realized she had a natural talent. Her touch was gentle, her instincts sharp. Together, they became an unlikely team, tending to the injured and sick with a shared sense of purpose. Sari's presence in the clinic brought a change to the camp as well. Those who had once ignored or belittled her began to see her in a different light. She wasn't just a broken survivor. She was a beacon of resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was still room for kindness and cooperation. One day, a group of ravagers attacked the outskirts of the camp. Chaos erupted as people scrambled to defend themselves or flee. Elias and Sari worked tirelessly, treating those who were injured in the skirmish. But when a young Ravager soldier was brought into the clinic, badly wounded, the tension reached a boiling point. "Why are you helping him?" A voice shouted from the crowd gathered outside the tent. "He's one of them." Elias stood firm. "He's hurt, just like anyone else. That's all that matters to me." Sari hesitated, memories of her family's destruction flooding her mind. But then she looked at the soldier, barely more than a boy, and saw the same fear and pain she had felt. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward to assist Elias. Together, they saved the Ravager's life. The act didn't erase the animosity between the camp's inhabitants and their enemies, but it planted a seed of understanding. If a Sarathi girl and a human medic could set aside their pain to help even a Ravager, perhaps there was hope for a better future. Months later, the camp began to rebuild in earnest. Elias and Sari's clinic had become a symbol of unity, a place where all were welcome, regardless of their pasts. Sari's skills continued to grow, and she began teaching others the healing techniques of her people. In doing so, she ensured that the legacy of the Sarathi would live on. As for Elias, he found himself inspired by Sari's resilience and courage. She had taught him as much as he had taught her, about forgiveness, about hope, and about the strength that comes from standing together in the face of adversity. In a galaxy scarred by conflict, their bond was a reminder that compassion could bridge even the widest divides, and sometimes all it took to make a difference was one person willing to help when no one else would.